Welcome back to the mplyLebo Leadership Podcast, a place where we raise and uplift and empower impactful leaders everywhere in the world, one person at a time. I'm excited about today's episode, mostly because this episode marks our 2-year anniversary, episode, if you will. 2 years ago, we started this journey. And without your support, this would not have been possible. So I want to give a shout out to our listeners everywhere across South Africa, the US, the Cayman Islands, Russia, Ukraine, Australia, Italy, Canada, Nigeria, Germany, India, Belgium, Hungary, as well as New Zealand. And I believe the list is going to continue to grow on and on and on and on. So yeah, thank you very much all. As we say in our lingo here on this platform, Eita, daar. All right, do we have a topic for you today? Absolutely. We're going to bring a very different angle to our leadership podcast today. I believe there are some leadership lessons to be learned from real life, business stories, both success stories as well as failures. Today, we're going to be talking about the power of innovation, and then subtitled Lessons from the Apple Story. Yes, Apple, the one that you know from Steve Jobs. All right, so as you know, I'm your host, and as we dive into this, most powerful conversation, I believe, or rather a conversation of, I think, this is particularly one of the most powerful drivers of progress in any organization or team, I would argue, in the world economy. So the way we're going to approach it, folks, is not so much innovation is a password, but really I'm talking game-changing, culture-defining, market-shaping innovation, the kind that transforms industries and creates legacies. And to bring this to life, we're going to unpack one of the most iconic case studies in business history today, as I already indicated, Apple. Yes, the company that went from near bankruptcy in the late 90s or 1990s to becoming the first trillion-dollar company. Let's explore how innovation done right became Apple's greatest superpower and what leaders like you and I can learn from it. Are you ready? Let's go. Let's rewind the clock for a little bit. In the late 1990s, Apple is struggling. Their product line is confusing, their brand is fading, and they're being outpaced by Microsoft and others. And then enter Steve Jobs, returning to the company that he co-founded but was once ousted from it. What he brought back wasn't just vision, it was a culture of focused innovation. Here's what Apple teaches us. I'm going to give you a few points out of that. Number one, innovation starts with purpose, not product. Innovation starts with purpose, not products. One of Steve Jobs' most famous quotes was, and I quote, "You've got to start with the customer experience and work backwards to the technology." Close quote. Now let that sink in. Most companies start with the product and try to push it into the market. Apple started with a question, and I quote, "What would truly delight the customer?" Close quote. What would radically simplify their life? The iPod didn't just play music. It changed how we accessed, owned, and experienced music. The iPhone, on the other hand, wasn't just a phone. It was a reimagining of communication, creativity, and mobility. As a leader, ask yourself, are you innovating with purpose, or are you just upgrading features? Start with human need, not technical novelty. Number two, Innovation requires saying no to 1,000 things. When Steve Jobs returned to Apple, one of the first things he did was cut down the product line. He once said, and I quote, "Innovation is saying no to 1,000 things," close quote. Now, folks, this is huge. Apple's focus became legendary. 4 main product quadrants, right? Consumer versus pro, desktop versus portable. That was it. Consumer versus pro, desktop versus portable. That was it. Why? Because focus fuels innovation. Too many teams chase too many ideas, but the most innovative organizations are the most disciplined. As a leader, you have to ask, what are we really solving for? What projects, ideas, or distractions do we need to cut? What can we double down, or where rather can we double down? You can't innovate. You can't innovate if you are overwhelmed. Simplicity is not a lack of ambition. It is a strategy for innovation. I want to repeat that. Simplicity is not a lack of ambition. It is a strategy for innovation. This reminds me of a quote of what has now become a legendary bank. Just about more than 2 decades ago was a startup, Capitec, who once had a tagline that said, "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication." Now, enough with that. I just thought I'd throw that in there for my South African audience. That leads us nicely into number 3. Innovation thrives where courage meets culture. Innovation thrives where courage meets culture. Now let's get deeper. Innovation isn't just about ideas. It's about creating a culture where new thinking is not just allowed, but expected. Apple was bold. They took risks. They broke the rules. They killed the headphone jack. They disrupted their own products before competitors could. Imagine that. They disrupted their own products before competitors could. But here's the key. And if you're South African, or I think even in modern day Gen Z lingo, here's the kicker. Yeah. That kind of risk-taking isn't possible without a safe environment for creative thinking. Behind the scenes, Apple teams are obsessive about detail, brutally honest in feedback, and constantly prototyping. Innovation is a habit, not a moment. Ooh, let that sink in. Innovation is a habit, not a moment. As a leader, are you building a team where it's okay to challenge the status quo? Where failure is seen as part of learning? Where bold thinking is rewarded and not punished? You can't demand innovation from people that you do not empower. Let's step back for a moment. Apple's rise wasn't just magic. It just happened. No. It was method. Start with the user's deepest needs. Say no to noise. Build a culture where courage and creativity are nurtured. And yes, they had brilliant minds, absolutely, and world-class designers. But the real edge, right, is leadership that believed in the power of innovation as a daily discipline. Now, what about you? What's the one process, product, or mindset in your world that needs a bold rethink? Think about it. What's that one area where you can simplify in order to innovate? And are you creating space for your team to imagine, prototype, and disrupt before someone else does? The future doesn't belong to the biggest or the loudest. It belongs to the most adaptable. And these are my last comments. The most creative, the most courageous. I want to repeat that. The future does not belong to the biggest or the loudest. It belongs to the most adaptable, the most creative, and certainly the most courageous. Innovation is not reserved for tech giants. It's available to every leader if you are willing to lead differently. Folks, thank you for joining me on this very latest episode, this anniversary episode of the mplyLebo Leadership Podcast. If this episode sparks something in you, share it with a fellow leader and start a conversation. Perhaps put it this way. What's that Apple-level innovation waiting inside your team? Until next time, keep leading with courage, keep innovating with purpose, and as always, keep it simple. I'm Lebo, and I'm looking forward to your feedback, and looking forward to keeping this conversation going. Thank you for tuning in. Eita, daar.